In a new documentary on Netflix, tennis star Nick Kyrgios reveals that he checked himself into a mental health facility after his crushing loss at Wimbledon in 2019. And he says that at the time he was abusing drugs, he had suicidal thoughts, and that he has since managed to turn his life around. He says he has a completely different outlook. Posting on Instagram, he said, quote, "I don't take one moment for granted. I want you to be able to reach your full potential and smile. This life is beautiful," he says. So I want to bring in now author, mental toughness expert, Marine veteran as well, Eric Rittmeyer, and entrepreneur and branding expert, Luke Linz. Thank you both for being here. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Natasha.
Thanks for having me here, Natasha.
Let's throw out this question. Why is it important that this tennis star is coming forward and not just saying vaguely mental health matters, but saying, hey, I checked myself into a psych ward. It got really, really dark.
Yeah, I believe, I think obviously we have to recognize everybody's entitled to their own emotional responses to situations, right? Regardless of how ill-calibrated I might think your emotional response is, you're entitled to it. I think as it relates to professional athletes, there are very few of us who can relate to their mindset. We haven't been through the stress they're through. But I believe it's one of these things where you have to get it out there. You know, in the Marine Corps, we're taught to improvise, adapt, and overcome. That doesn't work very well for mental health issues. I like the fact he's getting it out there. And I think it sheds light on letting boys especially know it's okay to express feelings.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And Luke, you know, June is Mental Health Month for men. Studies show men are much more reluctant to talk about how they're feeling. What needs to change in regards to this?
Yeah, especially when we're talking about the workplace and men's mental health in the workplace. I think that companies need to put bigger emphasis on actually like working out and physical fitness in terms of being in the workplace. And we know these things increase basically people's confidence, males' confidence, increase people's mental toughness, and basically will increase and diminish mental illness if company employers, CEOs are putting a bigger emphasis on it in the workplace.
Yes, certainly. And, you know, Eric, you're a mental toughness expert, a Marine veteran as well. And I think a lot of us picture what it is to be a Marine, and it is nothing but mental and physical toughness. What strategies do you use when you get into some dark mental spaces? What is the message that you would want people to hear?
Yeah, you know, it's just funny, Natasha, because I think when people hear mental toughness, they automatically assume it's yelling, it's screaming, it's turning off the emotion, it's ignoring it. It's not it at all. Mental toughness in 2 words is emotional control. And this is what we learn in the Marine Corps. This is what you learn from lots of high-level athletes. It's not trying to ignore the feeling. It's learning to recognize it, control it, and use it in a way that you're going to get the mission completed. So this is all about establishing what I refer to as an emotional vocabulary, a feelings vocabulary, especially helping our children to help them recognize if there's an issue, if there's a problem, go to this vocabulary so you can express how you feel and know that it's okay to express that feeling.
Yeah, and Eric, I want to stay on the topic of mental health with you quickly. Experts say the pandemic triggered a national mental health crisis. Research from Mindshare Partners shows that 76% of workers reported at least one symptom of a mental health condition through the pandemic. And then in a separate study from Harvard, 84% of people blame work for their mental struggles. So what is it about our work lives that's contributing to this mental health crisis in a way that maybe our parents, our grandparents didn't see?
Well, this is a fear of mine, Natasha, because what we have to be careful of is not to conflate work stress with real life stress. There are certain things, life is not comfortable. And my fear is as a society, we've softened, and I'm not discounting anything from mental health. This is absolutely positively an issue. But what we have to be able to differentiate between is what is just true everyday real life adversity we have to deal with compared to true mental health. I've read some of these studies, you know, people saying that they're experiencing mental health issues because they're now required to go back into the office after being home for the last few years because of COVID. Is that mental health, or is that just you becoming used to staying home? So I think we have to be careful to help people understand life isn't easy, life isn't fun. There's some things you have to kind of deal with and get through.
You know, research shows each year more than 200 million work days are lost due to mental health conditions and untreated mental illness. And apparently that costs the U.S. $3.7 trillion every single year. So it shows employers are losing money on this. Will that be the ultimate motivator for them to want to keep their employees happy and help out with this? Or do you think it's incumbent upon the employee to fix what is going on and come to work healthy?
Yeah, you bring up a wonderful point, Natasha. And this is true. Like, where do you draw the line? At what point is it the employer's responsibility to care for your mental health? Again, I understand that that's just something, a lot of it probably has to deal with work, but how much is due to home life? There's lots of things that are happening at home. To put 100% of the onus on the company to say you have to do this, you have to do that, I don't think that's right, because there's no way to differentiate between what portion of their stress is coming from work and home. It's a very easy defense mechanism to automatically push liability onto the employer. But again, how do we know what's causing what? It's a very difficult thing.
I think there's a generational thing at play as well, because not long ago, it was definitely considered oversharing to talk about these things so publicly, especially in a workplace environment. How has the conversation changed? Do you think it's a positive thing?
Yeah, it's absolutely a positive thing. Again, I go back to the Marine Corps. We're taught to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And as it relates to mainly veteran suicide, is why it's so high, I believe, is because if there's an issue, if there's a problem, we improvise, we adapt, we overcome. Not applicable to mental health issues. I think there's been a very big effort, a very big push to help people understand, kids especially, boys, to understand you don't have to try to suppress what you're feeling. There are healthy ways to convey it. There are ways to get to the root cause of it. There's people that want to help you. Reach out to your loved ones. I'm sure we've been through it. Maybe we have the life skills that help us through. We can pass that along to kids, but it all starts with helping them to understand feelings are okay. 100% of your feelings are okay.
Yeah, it's such a good message. And I know the connection that Luke Lintz had didn't allow him to stay with us today, but Eric Rittmeyer, I certainly appreciate your time and staying with us through this important conversation. Thank you.
Appreciate you having me, Tasha. Thank you.
All right, believe it or not, there is a sneak